Hey folks, this is Rabble Rousing Rich Bergeron.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Tornado Tony Pentagon. And Psychic Tom Paget with his crystal ball ready to go.
Still mad about Peter Yan. We're going to start right off with that. But it was one of those things where, like, you know, when you make a bet or you set up one of these FanDuel lineups like I always do, you want to look at it like from a numbers perspective, but sometimes you have to figure in the intangibles, like freaking fights in Abu Dhabi. Muhammad and Islam are probably going to win.
There's no commission there, by the way.
Yeah, I saw that they had the Abu Dhabi people in the ring for every fight, and I was like, what is going on? But anyway, Islam Makhachev was in the main event, and Charles Oliveira, despite having a multi-year win streak, just could not overcome the home crowd advantage of Islam. And, you know, what else is a half-Muslim crowd going to chant but Islam, right? They're going to love it. So that went, it was actually the only name I ever heard the crowd chant that night, so it made sense. But yeah, I put Charles Oliveira in my one lineup because I totally forgot this was in Abu Dhabi and they were going to do it early in the day. So I went to go do more lineups the next day, and it was like, oh, you have like 10 minutes left. And I tried, and it was like too late. So I had Charles Oliveira in my MVP slot, which did not help me out, but I had faith in him that he was going to pull it out, but he just could not overcome the size difference, number one. I mean, Makhachev is not as cut and muscular. He's not skin and bones. He's just a solid dude. And he's very well trained by Khabib's father there, and it was kind of a special moment at the end of the fight. But really, the controversy was in the next two fights on the card. A couple controversies. First, Aljamain Sterling versus TJ Dillashaw was a travesty. TJ Dillashaw actually apologized to the entire division after the fight because...
So what? That was a fraud. That was a... Yeah, exactly. Really? That was a fraud.
It reminded me of a situation that resulted in a lot of lawsuits when Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao fought, and it was disclosed after the fact that Manny knew he had a shoulder injury going into the fight and fought anyway.
Yep, exactly.
And TJ said that
And Tony, this was even worse.
He estimated...
Really?
He said it right on camera that his shoulder popped out maybe like 200 times in camp, and he just popped it right back into place. So he felt like he could get away with it here in a fucking title fight, basically, co-main event, because he said he'd have to wait a year to get another title shot. Well, fucking wait a year, you know. Nobody wants to see you pop your shoulder
now, who would
ever, in a fight.
Who could? I mean, he had enough of a bad rap for being a cheater over that EPO thing. Yeah. Now, as far as I was concerned, you give him a chance. He manned up to it. He took his suspension. He didn't fight it. And he's coming back, starting all over. And then this?
And Dana White...
How could you ever believe him on anything, ever? He should be cut.
Also came out and said that he should have let them know about it. He did not. But apparently, TJ did let the referee know about it when they had the backstage meeting, that it was going to pop out and, you know, don't stop the fight because I'm not going to tap. You know, give my corner a chance to pop it back in if it comes out. So, I mean, just ridiculous that he went through with it and just got his ass kicked so soundly. I mean, I think Aljamain would have beat him anyway. He's just such a on-point wrestler.
That's got nothing to do with it. But, I wanted a fair competition. Yeah. Okay, and you seen the fight, Rich? 15 seconds. What was it? 15 seconds into round one. I just had moved away from the screen. I was in another flame war about the previous fight. But what did he last? 15, 20 seconds, and he was on the ground.
Yeah.
Couldn't, all with one arm.
Yep.
Jeez, what a day.
And, that wasn't the worst of the worst, I think. Well, it was pretty bad. The 10th fight of the night, Sean Sugar O'Malley versus Peter Yan. And split decision, second split decision loss for Peter Yan. And Aljamain Sterling was involved in the other one. So it's just crazy. This one was just a matter of clashing styles. I mean, a lot of people pretty much wrote Sean O'Malley off on this one. He was ranked number 12. He's very able to hype himself, but he hasn't fought the level of competition that Peter Yan has fought. And if this was a 5-round fight, O'Malley would not be getting any kind of decision. He would have got knocked the fuck out or TKO'd. He was gassed. He was done. He could barely stand up doing the post-fight interview. And it's because Peter Yan sucked his gas tank dry, basically took him down, I think 6 or 7 times in the fight. Did a lot of ground control stuff, and Sean O'Malley's only finer moments were in the striking area, which was very rare, and it was maybe 30 seconds at a time where he had spurts of energy, and he, had some strategic lightning fast shots that caught Peter off guard and maybe sat him down once. But I mean, a split decision for O'Malley, he didn't win a round. In my opinion, I mean, the only time you could say he won a round is the time that he knocked Peter down. And even that was at 10-9, I believe, because Peter would have won the round if it wasn't for that knockdown. and he recovered very quickly because of his wrestling. The only big criticism I had from Peter's entire fight plan and approach to fighting is he is so takedown heavy in his style that he comes in with his fucking head down like he's gonna tackle somebody in a football game. He does it when he's striking, when he's throwing these bomb hooks that if he was looking up at his target he might connect with. But he's just not only committing too much to the takedown doing that, he's also neglecting his strikes. He's wasting them. And that pissed me off more than anything because I had him on my card, and it was funny because he got more in a loss than Sean O'Malley got in a win. That's how they score the points for takedowns in FanDuel. Smarter than the judges in the actual fight. So I don't know how many points you get for a win bonus, but that was how pathetic O'Malley's output was. And they do, heavily put emphasis on takedowns, but so do normal MMA judges. Like, I've told the story on this show before about sitting next to a judge at a Massachusetts event, and it came down to a takedown. I mean, the kids were so close in the fight. It was third round, and the winner got a takedown in the last 10 seconds. And I said it out loud, and I saw the judge mark it for that kid. Right after I said it, takedown is going to win this fight. And so to neglect to score all those takedowns for Yan in those close rounds, I think that was a mistake. He didn't land the best strikes because he was so willing to able to wrestle through most of the fight. That's a fan thing to do, is to not give him credit for that. That's a day one fan saying, "Oh, I want fucking punches and kicks and knees. I don't want this fucking wrestling." But you're talking about in any sport with combat, ring generalship, control time. And judges are supposed to look at that and that only. Just like a judge in a court is supposed to be unbiased, You're not supposed to prefer one side or the other. You can't prefer one style over the other as a judge and expect to keep your job or expect to, align with the experts and, the true fans who know what the sport's all about. It's just, I just couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand how any judge could have it for O'Malley. Never mind 2 fucking judges. The only thing I agree with after the fight is the perspective of the announcers who were kind of saying, well, if anything, you can say that Sean O'Malley belongs in this fight. Yeah, showed that he can hang with Peter Yan, but he did not beat the dude. He just didn't.
They really had to do a tap dance. I just had to laugh at that. I mean, and I would do the same thing if I was in their shoes, but they wanted to say more than what they did. But they had to be very, very politically correct about it.
Yeah. It's just ridiculous. You made the point before we got on the air that a lot of it could have something to do with Sean O'Malley's social media following and popularity. I don't doubt it for a minute. And Peter's a fighter that isn't really out there promoting himself like that at all.
And remember also, he's the bad Russian. I'm not saying politics had anything to do with it.
Yeah.
But you start to put all these little pieces together, and so O'Malley now is probably going to get the next title shot. And what about Chico Vera, who would beat O'Malley? Yeah. Now he's going to leapfrog over Chico. It's anyone talk about it.
Yeah. Well, one guy that defied the odds of fighting in Abu Dhabi, Beneil Dariush, who formerly was in the Israeli military, served with the Israeli military for a little while before he became a fighter. And I picked him in my lineup, and I wasn't sure he was going to get a knockout or anything, but I knew he was going to win, and I felt that was more important than trying to pick the knockouts because of his price. He was a big underdog, and I don't understand how, because he has such a long winning streak. I think 7 or 8 fights now. And I was going up against a tough guy, but just nowhere near as dominant in his last few fights as Dariush has been. So that was one of my better picks of the night, and he won by unanimous decision. And during the fight, I don't know what happened, but a lot of people were looking away from the cage because there's some incident in the audience. Just had a lot of people.
Well, yeah, well, there were a few of them. Now, toward the end, Kazmat had it out with Nurmagomedov's cousin or brother or something.
I did hear that.
I think there was, but I think there was one earlier, and I've been going to fights, for a long time, and it looked, I suspect, normally, and you guys have been in this arena when all of a sudden the crowd's looking somewhere, it's a fight.
Yep.
If they're still looking after a minute, there's probably more than 2 people involved.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't know if there's alcohol in Abu Dhabi. Do you know, Rich? Do they? I know the Muslim countries are pretty strict on that. Do they serve alcohol there?
Yeah, it's island, so it might be one of those situations where it's like international waters. Whatever happens. It's Vegas to them. And it's like the UFC pretty much controls the whole island when they do events there. So I don't know. I'm betting that there are.
Yeah, that may have played a big role in that.
Yeah, especially when you're not used to it. So we had this is amazingly large amount of unanimous decisions for this card. Just looking at it now, I'm just figuring it out. So basically, the main event, co-main event, and only 2 other fights were stopped. Everything else went to decision. So there was a 1 split decision and 1 majority decision to start the night off. That was Carol Rosa bantamweight over Lena Landsberg. And this was the guy you had to have, Muhammad. 2 Muhammads. I didn't even realize that until now. Bilal and Muhammad Mokaev. Muhammad Mokaev fought the second fight and beat Malcolm Gordon by armbar submission. But just a little over 30 seconds left in the fight. I don't know how it went before. I didn't get to catch that one. I started off with Nikita Krylov's fight, and then at the end of that one, I started watching. I watched the full Muhammad fight. But anyway, Muhammad Mokaev beat Malcolm Gordon there. That was one of the only stoppages in the early action. And Armin Petrosian started the unanimous decisions over A.J. Dobson. And you got to go with the Nurmagomedov, so this is the guy I had on my lineup. Abu Bakar Nurmagomedov. You can't bet against him, Nurmagomedov, these days, no matter what his first name is. And sure enough, he beat Gadzi Omar Gadziev by unanimous decision. And then I had Krylov. He got his win, again by unanimous decision, over Volkan Ozdemir. So I had all wins until the main event. I was looking at least some money. I didn't have all the TKOs and stuff, but I had all wins. I was really pissed when Bear lost. Anyway, Kai Baralho at middleweight showed his dominance, continued dominance, beating Mahmoud Muradov by unanimous decision. And Bilal Muhammad, oh man. Sean Brady showed some poise, some patience, a little bit of, tactical ability in the first round. But just the weight size difference, I don't know. He must have packed on a lot of weight from between weigh-in and the fight, because he looked just so much physically bigger than Brady. And Brady just got to the point where he was trying to find his range, trying to land 1-2s and, slick little combinations. And Bilal got hit by a lot of shots, but once he realized it wasn't going to knock him out and Brady was starting to gas, he just put the pedal to the metal and does what he does. And it just made Brady look like a newcomer to the sport in the second round. And the TKO came at the 4:47 mark of round 2. But I thought Bilal was going to lose that early going. I thought he looked pretty bad. And, another hometown situation, home crowd type of thing, even though he's like very Americanized at this point. But I have had people reach out to me and say I should investigate his connections to Hamas. So he stays in touch with his Arab roots, I'm sure. So yeah, the crowd was very favorable to him. And he started it off really for the Muslim contingency. Then we had a catchweight female fight, Manon Fiorot beating Caitlin Chikhogian. And that was that. We've already gone through the main events down. But yeah, it was a good card. And, we didn't do last week's show, so we didn't get to talk about the new heavyweight picture with Deontay Wilder coming back in incredible fashion with a knockout over Robert Helenius a couple weeks ago.
Crazy, you know it's a night of explosions when Deontay Wilder has the second most impressive knockout on the card.
Yeah. Who's it?
Good point. Yeah.
The grave digger
when he knocked out
Caleb Plant.
Andre Durrell.
Yeah.
That was a KO. That was a KO. Woo!
That double left hook.
And talk about the different perspectives. You got Deontay Wilder almost breaking down in tears talking about how he wanted to help Helenius after he hurt him. And then you got freaking Caleb Plant doing the gravedigger thing, which many people would say is disrespectful to his opponent.
Yeah, there was a lot of trash talk there, and one of those two guys is really lying. I don't know if it's Plant or Durrell. Did you guys hear what Durrell said after the fight?
No.
About the, Plant gave that after-fight interview, and he said that before the fight, Durrell had told Bernard Hopkins, "I ain't losing to no white boy." Well, that's an awful thing to say. Right. But Durrell denied it after the fight. He said, "Anyone that can show me that video, I'll give you $10,000. I never said that. So if Plant's making that up, that was a horrible thing to make up.
Yeah.
Or if Durrell did say it, well, shame on him. But, wow, I mean, there was bad blood there. Did you notice how they came over to Plant and tried to stop him?
Right.
Tried to stop the grave digging. No.
I know, back when I was in school, and like in the college circuit, you was really, really frowned upon. I mean, it's really frowned upon for the most part. But when you get to the professionals, and you get a lot of like the showmanship out there, things are going to happen. You're going to get your guys that are going to hot dog and showboat and all that, and sometimes we'll cross the line. My senior year at Lock Haven, we're having our show, and I think I was the 8th or 9th bout on the show. And so around bout 4-ish, I went on just to take off my warm-up suit. I had my trunks on underneath and everything, so I was going to take off my warm-up suit, and then start, doing my limbering up. Because you figure I'd be ready to go in 30, 45 minutes. So I go back in the locker room to take off my warm-up suit, and I hear like this buzz going on in the crowd. So one of my teammates had just fought and lost. So I waited till he was done. I go back, and it was within a matter of seconds I hear this buzz, and I hear like a buzz and then a boo. I said, huh. So it's not one of my teammates, but I wonder what's happening. So I come out, and I hear someone say, man, what a knockout. Okay, I don't ask anything else because I got to focus on my own. Well, what had happened was there was a kid from University of Kentucky that I was friends with. His name was Jeremy Winton, and Jeremy was a good fighter, but the one guy that used to kick his ass all the time was Joey Gilbert from Nevada. Joey Gilbert beat the shit out of him like 3 times. But Winton was a good fighter. He, very unorthodox, tall, long arms, 156 pounds, national champion, very unorthodox, and he had good power, wiry, that good Tommy Hearns kind of power, right? So what had happened was he's fighting a kid from Penn State. So since it was Kentucky versus Penn State, everybody's rooting for Penn State. Winton converts orthodox to southpaw and throws this awkward-looking right hook. I saw it eventually on the video, and he hits this kid from Penn State, and this kid drops like a ton of bricks. And Winton runs up and jumps up on the ropes. So everybody's booing, right? This kid from Penn State gets up. They should have stopped the fight. Should have stopped the fight immediately, but they let it go. This kid from Kentucky, Winton, comes out and throws another right hook, and I mean, it was like, it looked like the shot, the left hook that Plant hit Doral with. He hits this kid from Penn State with a right hook, and this kid just drops. I mean, out cold. Winton again runs up, jumps on the ropes, nearly falls off the ropes, not into the crowd, but into the judges. So now everybody's booing and booing and booing, and then he goes over while this kid's being tended to on the ground to like check on him. The Penn State coach, Bill Rabel's like, get the fuck out of here, because he was pissed off that Winton had been showboating. Now, I don't know none of this. Later, my fight's going on with Michael Jordan, and it's over, and it was a decision, but at the final bell, I hit him with some good shots, and I start pounding my gloves together, and I start going towards my corner, where all my friends were sitting in those bleachers, and Dr. Cox saw, and he knew that I had planned to jump up on the ropes, and it had been so poorly received earlier, plus he realized that the ropes were kind of loose because Winton almost fell out of them, or off of them. He was like, no! And you don't hear it on the video somehow, but he definitely said no. And then I turn and I go into this full-body seizure. It looks like I went into this gallop. It looked like I was having like a heart attack. I'm like, people are like, what were you doing? I'm like, you look so ridiculous. I'm like, yeah, I know. Doc told me I couldn't jump over the ropes. He told me not to showboat.
Nice. Well, we didn't have too many big fights last weekend, but the one that hits home the most was the first loss for our Facebook friend James Mackenzie Morrison, son of Tommy. He is now 21-2. 2 draws, the 1 loss to Robert Sims, who came in 11-3 with 1 draw at heavyweight, and this one was for the title too, the WBC United States heavyweight title. So Mackenzie's got some adjustments to make, I guess, but he's upbeat about it. He's definitely continuing.
Was it a decision? Was it a stoppage? Like I said, I wasn't around all weekend, so.
It was a unanimous decision, yeah. I didn't watch it. I didn't see video of it or anything like that. But I follow him on Facebook and I see all his posts. So I was kind of pissed about that when I found that out. I said, oh shit! But it's a long time to stay undefeated. He was undefeated for a reason. And if I know him, seeing the way he works out every day, he's just gonna push it even further. Be better the next time.
Yeah. Sometimes a loss early in your career can work one of two ways. Some guys never recover from it. Some guys they lose that O and they lose or invincibility, whether the loss was close or especially if they get stopped. Other guys turn it around and it makes them a better fighter. Guys like Joe Lewis made him a much better fighter. Other guys never recover from it. It's I guess how you pick up those pieces and your confidence level. When Tommy Morrison had that first loss to Ray Mercer, and that was a devastating loss, you could tell kind of after that, even though he came back and he did well, his chin was much more shaky. Like he had that stoppage loss to Michael Benn. A guy he should have killed, and it was a very relatively light punch that put him down and started his defeat. He went down like 4 or 5 times against Lennox Lewis. He even went down against Carl the Truth Williams, who was never known as a gigantic puncher. So it's how you handle it, more mentally sometimes than physically.
Right. Well, somebody's always got to go in first fight on the schedule this week, and it happens to be our Angel fight of the week. Before we get to our Jesus fight of the week, if we have one, Jose Angel Gabriel Rosa fighting in Buenos Aires, 16-0, fighting Leandro Ariel Fonseca, 14-0-1 at welterweight for the Federación Argentina de Box Argentina welterweight title. Federation of Boxing, probably. And then fight on ESPN Plus tomorrow from Roma, Panama, I guess that is. Paulo Atlantica. Mirko Natalizzi, he is 12-0, fighting Tony Dixon at super welterweight, 13-3 for the WBC International Silver super welterweight title. Sorry. And then John Ruiz, but Juan Ruiz is fighting in Tijuana. He is 27-7, fighting Ricardo Salas Rodriguez, who is 16-2. So that's our Friday night fights, worth mentioning there. Then we go to Saturday. IBF Latino Super Bantamweight title on the line between Paul Hayo. I wonder if his nickname is KO. Paul K.O. Hayo. 17-1-2 is his record, fighting 11-0 Rodrigo Fabian Ruiz. So that's 2 Ruiz fights in a row. And we go down to Australia, Melbourne. Kane Clark, 12-0, fighting Roldan Aldea, 17-8-1, no title there. I don't know where this one is. France. Jordy Weiss, 29-0, looking for big win number 30 against Meriton Caraxa, 29-6-3, also looking for number 30 win. That one's for the IBO Intercontinental welterweight title, which is vacant. If you happen to be in France, you can watch that. Here's our Jesus fight of the week in Puerto Vallarta, Jalisco. Fabian Diaz Grano, he is 10-3, fighting Jesus Mendez Aguirre, who is 8-1 at super lightweight. You know, Jesus has got to be super lightweight. And a Polish fight here, Poland. Maciusz Masternak coming at 46-5, fighting Jason Waitley, 10-0 at cruiserweight. Fights in Moscow, too. We're going to boycott those. Fuck Russia. That. Alright, in Wembley Arena we have quite the lineup. Jordan Gill, number 37 in the world at featherweight, fighting Kiko Martinez, 43-11-2. Gill 27-1-1. This is for the EBU featherweight title. That must be a stacked division if that's just for the EBU title. Jesus Christ. Those are some records. Then we got Mary Romero versus Ellie Scottney. Romero's 8-2. Scottney 5-0 at super bantamweight. That one's for the EBU super bantamweight title. Gary Cully 14-0 fighting Jawad Belmadi 16-0-3. Another somebody's always got to go fight at lightweight. We got light heavyweights. Mickey Ellison 13-4 fighting Thomas Whitaker Hart, who's 7-0. For the central area lightweight or light heavyweight title. And the big one is a female fight. Katie Taylor, 21-0, fighting Karen Elizabeth Carbajal, who is 19-0 at lightweight for 4 titles: IBF, WBA, WBC, and WBO World Lightweight titles. Big stuff there. The Showtime fights of the week, they're going to be in Glendale, Arizona, I guess. Gila River Arena. I don't know. Glendale somewhere. Maybe California. Antonio Nieves in the main event, 20-3 with 2 draws, fighting Alexandro Santiago, who is 26-3-5. That's a 10-rounder. And we got an 8-round fight between Ashton Silva, 7-0, and Braulio Rodriguez, who is 20-4. Gotta have a Feta Centro belt in the mix. Over at the Cash Creek Casino, Alan Sanchez, 21-5-1, fighting Saul Bustos, who's 15-0-1 for the WBO BA Feta Centro welterweight title. And then we got a DAZN card, the Zone. Joseph Diaz, 32-2-1, fighting William Zapata Segura, 26-0 at lightweight. Leonela Paolo Udica, 18-0-3, fighting Aureli Mucino, who is 31-3-2 for the IBF World Flyweight title. Our second Jesus fight of the week, number 11, Alexis Roca, 20-1, fighting Jesus Antonio Perez Campos, 24-3. That's just yet another example of my 4-name rule. If you're Latino and you have 4 names, the chances of one of them being Jesus is highly probable. Okay, so our other fight on that card worth mentioning, 15-0 Hector Valdez fighting Max Ornelas. Both of them are 15-0, but Ornelas has 1 draw as well. That's a super bantamweight fight there. And the biggest fight of the weekend has got to be Vasily Lomachenko fighting Jermaine Ortiz on ESPN Plus from Madison Square Garden. That's going to be a big fight. Vasily ranked number 4, Ortiz number 11 at lightweight, and definitely some title implications going to be worked out here. Second fight on this card, worthy of mention, Robeisy Ramirez, 10-1, fighting Jose Matias Romero, who is 26-2 at featherweight. And I went to high school there, but I very rarely see people in boxing named after my city of former residence, Quincy LaValle, 14-3-1 at super welterweight. When it's used as a name, they usually say Quincy. Fighting Troy Isley, 7-0. Duke Reagan, also on the card, 7-0. Luis LeBron is his opponent, 18-4-1 at featherweight. And then we got 15-1 Esteban Garcia fighting Delonte Johnson, who is 5-0. going on? It's a Tuesday. 2-star and above fights here. Boxer. There's a big one on. It's actually going to be on ESPN Plus here. We've got Kenshiro Teraji, 19-1, fighting Hiroto Kayaguchi, 16-0. That's for 2 titles: WBA Super World Light Flyweight and WBC World Light Flyweight. Of course, we have another Japanese fight. Shuichiro Yoshino. He's 15-0, fighting a 12-rounder against Masayoshi Nakatani, who's 20-2 at lightweight. That one's for the WBO Asia Pacific lightweight titles. And we got some Americans, well, at least one. Jonathan Gonzalez, 26-3-1, fighting Shokichi Iwata, who is 9-0. It's for the WBO World Light Flyweight title. And then Junto Nakatani, 23-0, fighting Francisco Rodriguez Jr., super flyweight, 36-5 with 1 draw as his record. We got one coming up that's not on here. Don't see the whole Anderson Silva versus Jake Paul card, but that is coming up very quickly. And Jake Paul has said, don't place your bets on Anderson Silva. Don't do it. Do you believe Jake Paul, Tom? Are you going to bet on him? Does your crystal ball say Jake can win this one? We lose Tom?
I'm going through the possibilities.
His crystal ball says turned into a magic 8 ball. Time will tell. I have to watch it, but they just did an open workout, and the story says that Anderson Silva definitely still looks fast. But I have not seen it. I know that Jake Paul works with BJ Flores, and he has definitely made some improvements since that partnership began. But this guy has not fought anybody that has been able to challenge him to this point. Really. Nobody. I think Logan Paul has fought better competition than Jake Paul.
Right. Okay. Well, how much credence, if any, can we put into Anderson Silva against Chavez Jr.? Do you think Chavez Jr. is just such damaged goods that we can?
Well, he was damaged goods, but I mean that's the kind of opponent you want to go against when you're going into your first real official boxing match. And remember, Anderson Silva for the longest time wanted to box Roy Jones Jr. before any crossover talk was ever mentioned or really, became a fad with Conor McGregor versus Floyd. Anderson Silva wanted Roy Jones Jr. and Roy Jones Jr. wanted it to happen, but Dana White constantly stood in the way. Because at that time, there was no UFC star that was bigger than Dana White. That changed with Conor McGregor, obviously. But, Anderson Silva has also trained at Wildcard Boxing Gym with Freddie Roach. He has always had a passion for boxing. And, the only thing I worry about is his chin. And him trying to do some funky, show your face out there and wait to get hit and try to move it away at the last second stuff. And Jake Paul is going to be trained for that, specifically. Yeah,
he's too old for that. I think he's been too old for that since the Weidman fight. It's almost 10 years now.
Yeah.
Wow, time goes quick, huh?
Yeah.
It really does.
But, I mean, a lot of...
That's an understatement, Tom.
Every fighter that Jake Paul has fought from the MMA circuit they're going into their first boxing match. Or in Tyron Woodley's case, just second, which is against the same guy. So this is a big step up for Anderson Silva, but he also doesn't pick people for no reason. Like, he obviously thinks he has the capacity to beat an Anderson Silva. And obviously he believes age is going to be a big factor. Age and, the fact that he's war weary and slowed down quite a bit over the years. But you got to remember, when Anderson Silva lost the title, it was like almost a victory for him, because he felt so much pressure, he said, after the fact, that it was almost a relief to be done having to defend that title. So obviously the pace of his fight career and the pressure and the constant attention was getting to him, and probably didn't make him a very productive fighter at the tail end of his career. And you saw what happened to him against Uriah Hall. He was worn out. But when you don't have to fight at that pace to support your family, and you can get involved in a situation like this where it's one of the biggest selling fights already, it's going to be a whole different ballgame. Like, you have way more time to train. You set your own schedule. You make your own decisions. You're not being overpowered by some huge, ugly contract like the UFC used to give to you. So I think it's going to be a completely different world for Anderson Silva, and to continue to make a living at it, he has to beat Jake Paul. Like, if he loses to Jake Paul, nobody's going to want to sign him up for another boxing match. Unless it's like celebrity boxing or something. I don't know. I don't see it happening.
I would agree. I'd have to go with Anderson. I don't want to look at it emotionally, but I just think he'll rise to the occasion.
Unless Jake is paying him to lose, I mean, that's a fucking certain possibility, unfortunately.
Well, that would take a lot of money, because, like you said, that'll be a retirement fight, unless he just wants to go. But I don't know. It just seems like, how much money would you have to pay him?
Yeah.
After a Hall of Fame career like that, and that's how you want to go out to a guy that's never fought a pro boxer ever? I don't know. I mean, I can't speak for Anderson, but I just don't think that's his character.
I don't know.
I mean, of course, everyone has a price.
I don't hate Jake Paul, but I kind of feel like he definitely backed off on a lot of the things he was passionate about. The whole fighter pay thing has just disappeared off the face of the earth, just like I kind of hinted it would. And he's still treating his own people that he manages pretty well, as far as I know. Nothing's been said about him being a bad manager or anything. And he's bringing money to these fighters who never would get money otherwise. We've got Le'Veon Bell fighting Uriah Hall, speak of the devil, just mentioned his name, on the undercard. That's the last guy to beat Anderson Silva in MMA. It's a retirement fight. Talk about retirement. So it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good step up for him, and it's going to show you whether Paul's really there or whether he's been all hyped the whole time. Yeah, I think it's pretty odds-on heavy that he has been hyped up too much the whole time. But I give him credit for stepping up the competition this way. Somebody with a lot more boxing experience.
Yeah, and I guess technically you could say this is the first time he's fought a boxer, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to call Anderson a boxer with his fight with Chavez Jr.
But he's had some Brazilian boxing matches too, I believe. I think he has more on his actual boxing record than just that one fight. That's just the most recent one we've seen him in. But he looked good. He looked really good. I don't know. But, Jake Paul is beatable. He's definitely beatable, and I think Anderson's the guy to do it. We'll see. This weekend, a Halloween special, And we've got another UFC fight card on October 29th. This time it's in Vegas, so it won't be any crazy hour. We got Calvin, our Boston dude. Well, not really Boston, but North Shore. 23-6, fighting Arnold Allen, who's 18-1. I don't need a crystal ball for this one. I'm going to go with the hometown guy, even though that sometimes gets me in trouble. But you know, he's really only lost to the best of the best in the last few years. And in his last fight, he showed that he learned from that loss. And Arnold Allen only does have the one loss, but I think he's mainly mostly a wrestler. He's not on the striking part like Calvin Cattar. He uses the entire cage, throws elbows like unbelievable when he's on point. And you know, if that guy shows up, Arnold Allen's going to take the loss number 2. And the rest of the card is a little bit more hard to predict. We've got co-main event of Tim Means, 32-13-1 at welterweight, fighting Max Griffin, 18-9. Waldo Cortez Acosta, it's a Waldo fight of the week. He is 7-0 at heavyweight, fighting Jared Vanderaa, who was 12-9. We got Josh Fremd, 9-3 at middleweight, fighting Trayshawn Gore, who's just 3-2. Khalil Roundtree, 10-5 at light heavyweight, fighting Dustin Jacoby, who's 18-5-1. We got Phil Hawes at middleweight, he's 12-3, fighting Roman Dolidze, who's 10-1. Old Andre, looking for win number 35, 34-20 at heavyweight, fighting Marcos Rogerio de Lima, who is 19-8-1. Joseph Holmes at middleweight, 8-2, fighting Jun Young Park, who's 14-5. We got Chase Hooper, 11-2 with one draw at featherweight, fighting Steve Garcia, who's 12-5. Cody Durden, 13-4 with one draw, fighting Carlos Mota, who is 8-1. And then leadoff fight Christian Rodriguez, 7-1, fighting Joshua Weems, who's 11-2. Just checking before we move on to Bellator. Who is the one that Arnold Allen lost to? Wow, it's quite a while ago. Back in 2014. I didn't realize he had that much of a win streak. Mostly decisions. But last fight was a TKO with Dan Hooker. 2:33 into the first round in March this year. That his win streak has been for the entire time he's been in the UFC. He had 2 wins in lower organizations, something called M4TC 15 and Cage Warriors Fighting Championship before that. Then he went to the UFC in 2015. Alan Omer, Yeltsin Meza, Makwan Americani, Mads Burnell, Jordan Rinaldi, Gilbert Melendez, Nick Lentz, Sadiq Yusuf, and Dan Hooker. All gone down in his win streak. But he's going to go down the next time. I don't know if he's ready for Calvin. But yeah, it's going to be a good fight. And Sean Shelby has shown he's pretty good at matching people. A lot of decisions on the Abu Dhabi card to prove that, even though they were unanimous, most of them. Matchmaking was good. And we haven't talked about Bellator for a while. They've been kind of out of commission, but this week they got a good one from Milan, Italy. Adam Piccolotti, 13-4, fighting Mansour Barnawi, 19-4. Lightweight. Fabian's fighting this week. Fabian Edwards in the co-main event, 10-2, fighting Charlie Ward, who's 10-4. And we got lightweights Saul Rogers, 15-4, and Tim Wild, 14-4-1. Justin Gonzalez, 13-1 at featherweight, fighting Andrew Fisher, who's 19-8-1. Davey Gallen, 21-7-2 at lightweight, fighting Danielle Scatizzi, who is 11-6. Sounds like a Italian name right there, Mr. Scatizzi. How you doing, Mr. Scatizzi? Hope I'm pronouncing that right. He's gonna come kill me. Looks like a intimidating dude for a lightweight. Jesus. This little octagon picture here on Sherdog looks pretty intimidating. 11th fight of the night, Simon Bayong. He's 8-2, fighting Dragos Zubko. He's 3-1. Alfie. Here's our Alfie fight of the week. Alfie Davis, he's 14-4-1, fighting Tibalt Gauti, 16-5 at featherweight. We got a female fight, Chiara Penko, 7-3 at strawweight, fighting Manuelta Marcanetto, 3-1. Eve Lando at featherweight, 17-9, fighting Walter Pogliandro, 11-3-1. Fights on this card. 7th fight of the night, Costello Van Steenis, 13-2 at middleweight, fighting Camille Onizuzukuk. ZCZUK. How do you pronounce that? SZCZUK.
SC is like that is a Z sound.
SZCZ.
Yeah, it still makes a Z sound.
That's
Yeah, because I knew a girl that went to school with SC. Her name was Zebeki. Zebeki.
And then Nicolo Soli, 3-1, fighting Barama Kamara, 5-1. Stephen Hill, 4-0 at middleweight, fighting Andrea Fusi, 8-6. Here's a nice easy one. Luke Trainer, 5-1, light heavyweight, fighting Lucas Alcina, 11-3. Percy Herrera, 8-6 at bantamweight, fighting Luca Lobine, who's 14-8. Alex Bertinazzi, 3-1 at featherweight, fighting Eduardo Kaiser, just 1-0. And the bantamweight start off the night, Ayub Nasser fighting Sharif Bapapi, who is 1-0. Nasser is 0-0, making his debut. On the Bellator card. All right. So we got a couple other stories. One is a new combat sport we got to talk about, unfortunately. Actually, I got 3 stories before we go. Biagio Ali Walsh, grandson of Muhammad Ali, is not the one you're thinking of. This is another grandson.
Right, you think Nico Ali Walsh.
Right, Biagio Ali Walsh is going into MMA. Got involved in some drinking, some drugging, some depression, and he got involved in the family business. His aunt, Layla Ali, and his brother is Nico, who's now a professional boxer that we all know now, has inspired him. So he's now recently signed an amateur contract with the Professional Fighters League and will fight on the PFL World Championship card on November 25th. So yeah, another new generation Ali getting in the fight game. But small world. He was a star running back actually at Bishop Gorman High School, which is the place that Dana White went to. It's where he met the founder of Zions' wife. That's how Zions and that whole thing got started, because it was a high school connection. And Ali Walsh also played at the University of California and UNLV. So he got enrolled at Extreme Couture and MMA after he kind of went into a funk after college. Didn't go pro football. So he wanted to stay in shape, but ended up getting into MMA. Fell in love with it. End of story. 24 years old. So anyway. 1-1 in his first 2 amateur fights. Doesn't believe he started too late. Says he gets better every day. Says I want to get as much experience as possible and just leave it to my coach when he thinks I'm ready to turn pro. And of course they end the article with the quote, "Fighting is in my blood." Of all cliched things he could say. Alright, so we had another big story this week about the UFC code of conduct. Had a little change made. So now no UFC fighter can bet on UFC fights. Hard to believe this was not part of the code of conduct before. But a former guest of ours actually was mentioned in the article I read about this. The coach now, but he was fighting not too long ago. I don't know if he's still got contract fights under contract or what, but of course I'm drawing a blank on his name. James Krause, the James Krause, as he called himself. Yeah, he actually made quite a bit of money gambling on the UFC, but now not even coaches can gamble. No fight camp people, no relatives of fighters, nothing, according to the code of conduct. Now, some states apparently have rules against, now that you have so many different states doing sports gambling, I think it's different in every state as far as, if you're an athlete, like who that you're connected to can actually bet on games and who can't. And, most casinos aren't checking out every name to see if it's connected to an athlete. And, they let it slide until somebody wins huge. Then it becomes a problem, obviously.
Right. When you win huge, it's like, oh, what's going on here?
Yeah. But this is going to be interesting. Because actually there was one fighter, I forget his name now, but that was mentioned in the article, who bet on himself. He bet in his entire fight purse on himself and lost.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Not a good look. We don't want that to happen, but the whole idea behind my idea of paythefighters.com was to kind of inspire something in the betting world where you could just push a button and be able to tip the fighter that won you the bet. So then you wouldn't have to have fighters betting on themselves or having to resort to betting in the first place to make their money. I mean, it just shows you that they had to make that rule. Obviously, a lot of people were doing it. So it's just another knock on the UFC for not paying their fighters enough so that they don't have to do that. But anyway. And another betting connection to close the show. We have to talk about this story. There is a new combat sport in town, and you can bet on it now. It's called face slapping. Slap fights also. I'm sure you've heard of it. There's been viral clips going around here and there. It's already had a competitor die. I did not know this. Wow.
Oh my God.
This is the first time I'm looking at this article, but I could not help but click on the title of it when I saw it in my alerts. The Power Slap League is one of the ones there. There's professional slap fighting. It's basically two people face each other and take turns open-handed slapping each other on the side of the head. Nevada State Athletic Commission voted last week in Las Vegas to oversee this slap fighting league. And videos this year from one competition show some fairly brutal hand-to-face contact while the recipient simply stands there and takes it. There's no defense in slap fighting. And we actually saw some Jake Paul highlights when he was, or I did anyway, some of his YouTube stuff where he was doing some commentating for some slap fighting, and one particular shot came and they went right to him to get the reaction, and he was just like, whoa. He was intimidated. Hunter Campbell, the UFC's chief business officer, said his team had spent a year working with commission officials to develop rules for the league built on those of mixed martial arts. He said it made all the sense in the world to go toward regulation before the sport's commencing for all the obvious reasons. Number one, the health and safety of the competitors. Safety rules will include requirements for protective gear such as mouth guards and earplugs, and regulations on which parts of the face can be slapped. Campbell and officials also called for blood testing, brain scans, and on-site medical staff. One guy from Bloody Elbow says, it's all offense and no defense. I just said that. It's common to see competitors badly concussed or fall completely unconscious from the blows. And then Ben Folks, another MMA reporter, says, this is what you'd get if you let 13-year-old boys invent a new sport. This is a harsh one. USA Today's Simon Samano said, if boxing is to hit and not be hit, slap fighting is kind of the opposite, where getting hit is specifically arranged and done without impediment. Nevada's commission is pretty shameless. It might as well be kicking each other in the nuts. Now this says that the early days of the pandemic is what really put the sport on the map because of the viral videos. Okay, so last year, a Polish competitor, Artur Walczak, was knocked out several times at an October event and died the following month in the hospital after being put in a medically induced coma. Well, obviously you wouldn't let people get knocked out multiple times in one night if it's regulated. So that's not that.
Yeah, right.
Well, the Power Slap League should have a major broadcast partner by year's end. It has not been decided when the slapping will begin. That's good. Yeah, so it's a thing, and I just saw another article, actually it was on TV, where it was talking about you can bet on it now. It's an official betting sport. That was probably also in Nevada. Well, you know, judges, we talked about that in the beginning of the show. Judges sometimes have such bad decisions, you might call it rape, but now a guy that judged MMA fights has actually been charged with basically rape. 2 felonies related to child sex offenses. This just came through my alerts today. 49-year-old Robert Alexander, whose experience in mixed martial arts officiating includes work with Bellator, LFA, and the UFC, was arrested on October 14th and charged with aggravated sexual assault with a child and sexual contact indecency with a child. Galveston County, Texas. Reported by MMA Junkie. Bond is currently set at $40,000 for each charge, with a hearing slated November 29th. 271. No, I was going to say UFC 271. He had a controversial judge situation. Occupied a judging seat for more than 700 fights. Alexander received criticism for back-to-back scorecards, which saw him as the dissenting judge in a pair of split decisions. He awarded Roxanne Modafferi a 29-28 scorecard in her loss to Casey O'Neill, and then gave the nod to Jared Vanderaa, which we just talked about, in his fight against Andrei Arlovsky. Prior to that event, Alexander also judged bouts at UFC 247 and UFC 265. So there it is. That's all we have for this week, and we'll have a lot to report next week when we have some results. Lots of fights to watch. If you have all the subscription services, you're going to have a good weekend. If you're paying for...
Well, I'll be sticking with mostly baseball all week. Again, knock on wood.
You got to root for those Philadelphia Eagles. No, but seriously, the Eagles are doing really good, too. Phillies.
We were talking earlier today about, it's so hard to get tickets to the World Series. I'm going to scour, as I call it, scour the waiver wire up until a couple hours before each game.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you're a season ticket holder, you were automatically invited to buy tickets. Then, you have to buy them before the round starts. Then other people like myself, we get thrown in a lottery. Someone's like, how do you not get an automatic invite? I'm like, because I'm just a normal person, I'm a guy in a cape and a hat, but I'm no better than anybody else. I buy my ticket just like anybody else does. I just get done a lot of photos taken. But, we were joking today, it's like, some of these people that are getting tickets, some of them are going to try to get them to sell them, some of them are going to get them, and, it's like, they barely even watch the game. It's like, one woman was like, she posted on Facebook, she said, I'm so excited the Philadelphia Eagles are in the World Series. Oh, God, it made me spew my gut. I used to mess with a guy at my old job because he knew nothing about sports, but like he tried to engage in the conversations. Though? They are. They're 6-0 right now.
Maybe not the World Series,
but I used to mess with this guy at work because he used to try to engage in the conversations, but he knew nothing. So I was like, "Yeah, man." I'm like, "This is just say it would be now. You wouldn't want to take like a player like a superstar like a Michael Jordan or someone like that. You'd have to use like an obscure player." And I'm like, "Yo, can you believe that the Eagles traded?" And then you'd say somebody like Nick Schwarber to, or the Eagles traded Kyle Schwarber to the Seattle Supersonics. Really? No, I didn't hear that. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's all over CNN. It's all over ESPN. You ought to check it out." I don't know why they did that. Oh yeah, I don't know why either.
Yeah. I bet you that Democrat that was on CNN would believe it. Man. I just had a random discussion with one of my wood customers today and talk about the oil prices. And he's like, if only people would figure out to stop voting Democrat. I was like, yeah, I think it's happening right now.
Yeah, well,
economy's becoming the #1 issue, so there's always hope. I still don't think Trump's coming back. I'm going to put all my money on that.
Nope.
He's not going to get involved in it. He doesn't. I don't think he's going to see the writing on the wall that he's going to win. So he's going to endorse somebody, but I don't think he's going to run. He's probably going to make a deal with somebody in one of these big cases. All right, don't run, and we'll drop it. He's just got so much heat on him. If he ran, he'd probably get more. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I've always had a feeling about it since the whole January 6th thing. They've gone after him for that, bad enough, but like all this extracurricular shit that they're going after him for now, in the civil realm, in the criminal realm, like, they're determined to stop him one way or another. And I just don't think his base is there anymore. Like, the fanatical base that he used to have just amazed me. But a lot of people have been turned off. The only thing that distracts them.
Well, maybe there'll be an opening for Ye. Maybe Ye's going to run.
Kanye? Well, he's running from all his good deals. All his good endorsement deals and everybody that's associated with him is just backing off of him. I don't even see what he said, but apparently it's some anti-Semitic stuff. So,
yeah, it's been pretty wild. Hey, and remember, I guess the deal for Twitter went through. Musk brought that let it sink in, so I'll see if I can get back on. I'm going to see if I can get back on next week.
Oh, yeah, and he fired a lot of people out from what I've heard.
Oh, I love it. Hopefully they'll be jumping off the bridge.
Yeah.
Well, bridge. Here you go, boys.
There was already a fake Trump.
It was a happy day.
There was already a fake Trump Twitter profile saying that he'd been let back off, but I didn't fall for it.
Well, but I don't want to jump to conclusions. We don't know what he's going to do yet.
Yeah.
He says he's up for free speech, but, it's not a done deal yet.
Right.
So, we'll see.
Oh, if Trump gets his Twitter back, he's going to definitely influence the election somehow. He might not be in it, but he's going to influence it. There's like one politician here.
I was on Reddit reading the comments, just reading the comments of some of these people. Whoa, what are we going to do without the moderators? What if he gets back on? I won't be able to sleep nights. I mean, it's fascinating.
Yeah, one of the candidates up here for Congress, Caroline Leavitt, obviously they've got all these ads about, she's going to do a national abortion ban. But there's also ads about, her trying to take away Social Security. Those went actually on CNN. They were talking about those ones today. But, yeah. There's another ad that is pretty much every night on TV now, where they just basically say, well, she still believes that Trump won the election, and she'll do whatever Trump wants her to do, and she's loyal to Trump, so don't vote for her.
Hillary Clinton still thinks she won the election in 2016. That can kind of shut that down real quick. Your election denier, ask Hillary.
Yeah, right.
That's a great point.
And in fact, the woman running for governor in Arizona, Carrie Lake, she turned the tables on someone about that. And she listed about 100 Democrats that never accepted the fact that the 2016 election didn't go their way.
My favorite news clip of the week from the debates that they've been having is the guy from New York, the governor of New York, their race, Kathy Hochul and Lee Zeldin.
Lee Zeldin.
Yeah, and they got into an exchange about crime. And Zeldin says, because he gets criticized for not voting for the gun regulations, and he says, well, Governor Hochul thinks, crimes aren't committed unless a gun is involved. But, the constituents that I'm fighting for are worried about getting pushed into the front of the train or beaten with a hammer on the subway. He's talking real cases. He's not making shit up. Those were real cases from New York recently. The guy pushed 3 innocent people in front of a train. And this is basically directly connected to looseness of the bail laws and all that shit, and the felony situations, and these people are multiple offenders, and they're getting slaps on the wrist and sent back out to the streets to create more mayhem. And they're never really getting punished. And it's just the whole.
Yeah, and Tony, I was watching some action in your part of the woods. Well, not your neighborhood, but your city. Wow. Amazing. Just shootouts right in the middle of the street, and
that was on Fox News tonight.
The Wild West.
Yeah, pretty much.
And the police in these big cities have to be demoralized.
Oh yeah. I mean, because it's like, especially in our city, they're finally trying to impeach the DA who doesn't want to prosecute crime.
Yeah. Well, that's a Soros guy, and somehow they elected him. I guess it was Soros's money. I mean, sad story, but I don't know. I get the feeling there'll be some interesting times coming up. A lot of changes can happen pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. They showed the friggin' national debt clock today. $31 trillion we're in debt.
Nice.
The last time I remember seeing it on TV, it was 17. $31 trillion now. Fuck this. But yeah, hopefully people will wake up. I'm starting to hear, though, that even CNN is admitting that the tide is turning towards the Republicans because of the economy. So there's hope. Republicans, just like the Democrats, might even put somebody different in there, like try to replace Joe Biden before it gets too bad. But I don't know. It's going to be so embarrassing for them to have to do that. Unprecedented, really, except for, who was it? He decided himself, but it was Lyndon Johnson who said he wasn't going to run again. That was the last time that happened. As far as I can trace back, but yeah, it's going to be some interesting times. For sure. All right, till next week, guys. Nice chat.
All right.
All right, let's enjoy the fight.
Okay, I'll see you guys later.
Go Phillies and Eagles, as long as they're not facing the Patriots.